A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to welcome you all to the launch of the CII Anarock Real Estate Consumer Sentiment Survey, Indian Housing Sector Emerging Stronger. Welcome everyone. We will now be beginning with the inaugural session of the conclave. May I first invite to deliver the welcome address, Mr. Deepak Garg, Chairman, CII Pune Zonal Council and Managing Director, SAINI South Asia and SAINI India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. Mr. Anuj Puri, Chairman, CII Knowledge Session and Chairman, Anarock Group. Mr. Harsh Nevatia, Chairman, Ambuja Nevatia Group. Mr. M.R. Jaishankar, CMD Brigade Group. Mr. Irfan Kazi, CIO Swami Investment Fund. Mr. Ravi Agarwal, Co-founder and Managing Director, Signature Global. Mr. Malayappan Murli, CEO and MD of Sriram Properties. Mr. Santhanam, CEO Asia Pacific and Chairman Saint Gobain India. Mr. Vipul Rumta, Managing Director and CEO HDFC Capital Advisors Limited. My colleague Asim from CII. Thank you all for joining us today for this session, and I really feel privileged to be a part of this elite panel today. Though I am not very directly connected to the real estate industry, but yes, surely I have a couple of connections. As a company, we are the largest concrete equipment manufacturer in the world, and the pumping of the world is being done by Fussmeister SAINI as a group worldwide. So I think that's my one connect with this elite group. And second, obviously, I'm a small buyer of some residential properties. And, whole of the world talks about COVID times. But when I look back, I myself ended up buying a couple of properties in this COVID times. So I'm still wondering, as to what was my sentiment or what was that consumer sentiment that led me to do this. I also want to share one very important thing. In the community where I live, we have 4 penthouses on a floor where I was alone for the last 6 years. The moment COVID hit, wave 1 and wave 2 put together, all the other 3 were sold out. And they were empty for last 7 years. So what is this sentiment? I am also not able to figure out. I was really at a loss, and I think this elite panel and along with Anuj, your survey, I think can really give us some thoughts, some enlightening on as to where the consumer sentiment is moving. But anyways, I see that, post the pandemic, I think while we look back as that as one of the horror stories forever, I would say that the real estate sector in Mumbai or even in all the metro cities have actually bounced back post the COVID. And the growth could be seen in the H2 of last year, continuing right up to March. And then I think a bit of a slowdown, but I think it is all geared up. And all this being well supported by the government initiatives as well. So government, one is in terms of providing some support to registration charges, some government policies. Also, I saw a good FDI coming in from in various sectors. Of course, majority of that going to the office space from various companies or various PE funds. But government support also came largely from the 20 million houses which the government talked about in terms of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And I think that also drove a lot. Maybe many of the real estate players are a part of this program. And the consumer sentiment there also was very, very important. And I know for sure many people who actually utilize this facility to have a home for themselves. And with whatever facilities, and I have seen real estate developers and companies working with these consumers to see that they get end-to-end support right up to the possession. So I think this is something which has been a changing trend which we have seen over the last couple of years. We also saw a lot of housing launches. I understand that they were almost 2x from the last quarter of 2020 going forward. So that's also a very good trend. And as per Anarock, one of your reports, I saw the sales also in the first quarter of this fiscal was almost over 90% more than last year. Of course, it was on a lower base because of the wave one. But considering wave two, I think this is a good bounce back for the industry. So I think there are different sentiments which are playing around. I am not an expert on that, but I'm sure the Anarock report will bring that out, and our experts from the real estate industry can delve upon it and share their perspective on the report, and they would bring out as to what exactly the consumer sentiments are going forward. And with this backdrop, I would like to thank Mr. Anuj Puri, Chairman CII Knowledge Session and Chairman Anarock, and his team, along with the CII Secretariat, for coming up with this apt and industry-relevant and timely survey, which help us deep dive into the current trends of the Indian real estate sector, and more specifically, provide us more insights of the consumer sentiments which are playing or which are going to play in the near future, which will, I'm sure, help all the companies, all the developers who are sitting here. So thank you once again for joining us, and may I now invite Mr. Anuj Puri, Chairman CII Knowledge Session and Chairman Anarock Group, to kindly deliver his address, please.
Thank you very much, Deepak ji, and very good afternoon to everyone. Deepak ji, you have set up the stage very beautifully, touching on three main topics, which is how the Indian economy has bounced back. Clearly, we had been in this lockdown situation, from March 2020. We had the first wave, we opened, we had the second wave, we opened. We've seen how quickly and how effectively the Indian economy has been able to bounce back. Clearly the IMF and the World Bank are predicting that we may be more than 9% GDP growth, as you touched upon. Stock markets are doing well. Many unicorns are coming up. And, it does look like that the Indian economy is well set on its way to recovery. The real estate part within that has also done pretty well. And, I must admit is that I was a little iffy in April, May, June of last year when the first wave hit, thinking that, on the residential side, who's going to come in and buy? There were job losses that were happening, salary cuts were happening. There weren't those bonuses or commissions that were coming in before. So I was like, this is going to be like a tough 2, 3, 4 years. And then once the lockdown started to lift, we saw it having a V-shaped recovery. We had the second lockdown. Again, after lifting up of the second lockdown, we've seen a V-shaped recovery. So the second point, Deepak, that you touched is also very interesting, is that, what has prompted Mr. Deepak Garg to buy a house? What has prompted his neighbors to buy that 3 vacant penthouses, which were lying vacant for the last 6 years? So I think several things, one is people want to upgrade, people want a social security. But what we have discovered, and we're going to go through this in a little bit more detail in the subsequent video, and Prashant, my colleague, is going to talk a little bit about it, is that we've seen for the first time millennials coming in, and they are buying a lot of it. We've seen the demand continue to remain end user, but in certain cities, we've seen the long-term investors starting to come in, not short-term, not speculators, who are the guys who dirty the market. Long-term investors, and which are required in the market, they are starting to come in. We've seen ready to move in inventory moving, or 6 to 9 months towards completion moving. We've seen second homes really doing very well. The farmhouses, 20-25% appreciation in those. My friend Vipul is here, and I'm going to ask him about plotted development. I mean, he's done it exceptionally well, and he set up a fund on plotted development for whatever reason. And you name it, whether it's Godrej, Shobha, Purvankara, all the listed guys, they're wanting to now do plotted development, which has really picked up. We've seen the sizes of the residential apartments go up. We've seen many buyers wanting to move towards the periphery of the city. And finally, what we have seen is that the developers who had the credibility, who had the corporate governance, who had the financial discipline, who had taken care of their customers, who had a delivery focus, have done exceptionally well. In the process, this market has got consolidated. I think is that it is coming out beautifully on the other side of this COVID tunnel, where you will have mature, transparent, well-governed, well-disciplined, players in the various stakeholders that are going to be able to take this sector. And I've got a very eclectic panel who is going to discuss this in more detail. But one of the things that a lot of people ask is that why is this picked up so well? What is it? And whether it is going to go forward in the same momentum as what we have seen in the last 18 months. Several reasons. I'll just touch on three. One is the low mortgage penetration that we have. As the mortgage penetration increase, you're going to see more and more home buyers there. Second, we are a very young nation, and we're going to see many of these buyers wanting to graduate to be able to buy, just like what we've seen internationally. And the third is, if you look at the home buyers compared to China or US, where the home buyer profile is about 75 to 80% of the population having at least one home, we are in the low 30s at this moment in time. So there's a huge amount of buffer, huge amount of ability for us to continue to sell. I'll just give you one anecdote, just like Deepak, you gave an anecdote. I met up with a developer. He's a Chinese developer. They're doing development in India. They have 3 large developments in India. I'd gone and met up with them at one of their developments. And I just asked him, I said, okay, what's the revenue that you did last year, just before COVID? And they said $100 billion, one developer. Our residential market, all put together, is about $17 billion. One developer of China, $100 billion. Our resi market for new homes, $17 billion. So we are like sort of 5 or 6 times multiple of the one developer that we have in China. Now, China is a separate story. It's a separate country. It's it's a little comparison that we can draw, but that is the scope for us to be able to go through this. And we are hoping that the resilience that this sector has shown over the last 18 months, this momentum of sales and the consolidation within the developer community will continue to bring in more positive sentiment within the residential sector. I'm going to stop here because I do want to ask the CII, Asim or Ronit, to play a video. And then we'll just have 5 minutes of Prashant just giving details of what he's picked up from the consumer sentiment survey. And then we're going to get into a very exciting part with very senior leaders who are going to discuss what happened and what transpired, but more importantly, going forward, what is going to happen.
Ron, shall I go ahead?
Yeah, Prashant, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Anuj. Thank you for setting the context so beautifully. Good afternoon, all the eminent members of the panel and people who have logged in. It gives me immense pleasure to present Anarock's Consumer Sentiment Survey report in front of all of you. Quickly, in 5 or 6 slides, I have tried to highlight what are the key findings. Ron, can you go to the next slide, please? So as you know, rightly said that during this pandemic, the major focus of every developer or every stakeholder is to kind of gauge where is the consumer sentiment moving and what is the consumers thinking of. And during this second wave, what we figured out that the risk aversion is kind of taking a back seat now. So if you look at the numbers of percentage of people who are kind of preferring to buy real estate has gone up to 54% as compared to 48%. And the percentage of people who wanted to park their money either in FD or gold has slightly come down to 3 and 9%. So this gives a clear indication that after weathering such a deadly outbreak, people are slowly getting back to their life, and the risk aversion is taking a back seat. People are kind of going and buying out houses, and kind of the way stock market is booming, you see the percentage is also quite gone up. If you look at the digital journey that the developers have covered, it's kind of phenomenal. In fact, COVID was a blessing in disguise, where it has fast tracked the digital adoption by the entire stakeholder. And for the buyers also, if you see, from 39% of their digital searches have gone to 60%, which is kind of quite heartening to know. What are the 4 attributes when a buyer logs into internet, and what are the key factors that is looking when you're searching for a property? So 64% of them look for offers and discount that the developers are offering. And 57% are looking for actual images of the project and then videos on the website. And 55% are looking for accurate project details. And it's kind of really interesting to know that 44% of the respondents said that they wanted to get a quick response to the queries that they post on the website of the developers. Right, next slide, please. Now, it has been long said that the housing market has slowly moved towards end user driven and with a good mix of investors. That is also evident from a survey. From the first wave, if you compare, the percentage of buyers who are looking to buy property for self-use has gone up from 59% to 71%. Now, what are the focus area of the buyers? Apart from the pricing, they are also looking for the credibility of the developer. So it's kind of a clear shift that the grade A reputed developers are going to gain the market share in this changing market scenario, and the buyers are willing to pay premium for a slightly better developer, and kind of don't want to go with a cat B or C developer and kind of take any execution risk. An interesting phenomena that came out was that people are slowly willing to buy projects that are nearing completion. So earlier it was a complete shift towards only buying RTM, but as and when the risk subsides, the developers kind of gain prominence in terms of the reputation. RERA has been kind of very strong in sending quite few judgment in the favor of buyers. So people are slowly kind of moving and taking that small amount of risk and kind of preferring properties which are nearing completion as well. Right, next thing. What are the top influencing factor? We all will agree that this pandemic has taught us the importance, or kind of highlighted the importance of a roof overhead. That is kind of quite evident from the survey, where 34% of the people said that they want to buy for the sense of security, and that also is kind of a long-term positive for this sector, because that brings in huge amount of end user in the market. And also it's kind of encouraging to note that the ticket size of the purchase is increasing. So now 38% of the respondents said that they are looking for property above 90 lakhs. So there is a shift in kind of increasing the budget size. The focus on amenities that a project offers has gained prominence, because during this lockdown, everybody has realized the importance of a gated community living, which provides a sense of security and wellness. So that's the reason people have stressed focus on projects that are high on amenities would be on their wish list. Pranit, next slide, please. And as Anuj rightly pointed out during his opening remark, that the preference is clearly shifting towards peripheries. Good amount of people are willing to buy projects in peripheries. Couple of reasons for that: because of this hybrid working model, people are kind of no more restricted to live near their workplace. And also, if you notice, most of the infrastructure projects which were connecting these far-flung areas are nearing completion. So I think that's also one of the reasons why people are willing to consider peripheries on the purchase radar. 2 BHK remains the preferred ticket size and then configuration amongst the buyer. So with this, Ranit, I'll hand it back to you. Thank you.